What's going on, everybody? This is MDENT313, and I'm back at y'all with another one. Hey, I know I'm being funny with this one, but we got to talk about it. Is LeBron James quietly a top two GM? Because when you look at the trades that he's responsible for since the inception of his career, I mean, first he orchestrated the trade to Miami along with Chris Bosh and Dwayne Wade. And now you got to remember how crazy this is, right? They let that trade happen while simultaneously blocking the trade for Chris Paul to go to the Lakers to play with Kobe Bryant. So the Miami Heat, who had already had won the championship with Dwayne Wade, was able to acquire another top 5 player in LeBron and a top 10 player in Chris Bosh. Right? Now that's one situation, right? Then LeBron James was able to go back to Cleveland, in which Kyrie Irving was the number 1 pick, and that was supposed to be his team. So he was able to go back to Cleveland and bring along, at that particular time, maybe a top 10, top 15 player in power forward Kevin Love. When Kevin Love was in his prime in Minnesota, let me tell you something, Kevin Love was an absolute monster. He was averaging like 13 rebounds a game, over 20 points a game, a few blocks. You know, he was a solid passer. He was good for maybe about 5 or 6 assists. Just an absolute phenomenal player in his time. Could shoot the 3 ball, could do whatever from the power forward position, right? So you got that whole situation going on, in which, you know, he won 2 championships in Miami, goes on to Cleveland to win a championship. I believe they went to the finals twice, I believe, right? And ended up losing to Golden State, winning 1 and losing 1. Now, fast forward, he orchestrated trade to go to the Lakers and also acquired another top 10, 15 player in Anthony Davis, in which, you know, during the pandemic season when they had that lockout, the Lakers ended up winning the NBA championship. So LeBron James, I never seen from a player's perspective somebody who had this much pull and authority, right? We never seen Magic Johnson do such a thing, Larry Bird, Allen Iverson, Kobe Bryant. The best that Kobe Bryant had after Shaq was Paul Gasol and Lamar Odom. But neither one of those guys were top 15, top 20 players. Don't get me wrong, they were solid players, but they wasn't elite level guys, right? So it makes you wonder, is LeBron James a top level GM? And if you look at what just happened last night, even though he's pretending he had nothing to do with it, or he didn't know what was going on, or the team hadn't spoke to him, they acquired arguably a top 3 player in Luka Doncic. Now, in my humble opinion, it helps the Lakers long term, but not short term, because you still don't have a front court player. Luka Doncic and LeBron James literally play the exact same style, except for Luka, in this point of his career, is a much better scorer than LeBron is, because he has a much better jump shot. But when you're talking about getting to the basket and kicking to open men, they both do that pretty well. I would still say that LeBron James is a much better passer overall than Luka. LeBron James is one of the best passers. You know, when you talk about the best assistment of the game, you got to talk about guys like Magic Johnson, John Stockton, Jason Kidd, Oscar Robertson. You can put Russell Westbrook in there now because he averaged a triple-double for multiple seasons. Mark Jackson, Gary Payton, guys that just dropped absolute dimes. Jay Williams, guys of that nature, right? I mean, just guys that was just absolute playmakers all across the board. But anyway, LeBron James, I've never seen a superstar, the guy that's supposed to allegedly be the GOAT or in the GOAT conversation, play with so many top level teammates, right? Now, when when you look at, you could make a case that, well, Magic Johnson, he played with Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Even though Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was still a phenomenal player, he wasn't the same Kareem Abdul-Jabbar that he was when he played for Milwaukee. If we being honest, you could bring up James Worthy, but James Worthy, even though he was a great small forward, right? When you mention the greatest small forwards of all time, I mean, James Worthy is down the list. I mean, you can go Larry Bird, you can go Scottie Pippen, you can go LeBron James. I mean, you know what I'm saying? It'll be a while kind of before you get to James Worthy. And then when you look at Larry Bird, I mean, you could say that he played with one of the greatest power forwards of all time in Kevin McHale, but let's be honest. Even though Kevin McHale was a beast, it's a lot of power forwards that was better than Kevin McHale. Tim Duncan, Kevin Garnett, Charles Barkley, Karl Malone. I mean, you know what I'm saying? You can go up and down the list if you want to. Not that he was a bum or anything of that nature. Don't get me wrong, he was a monster. But he wasn't them guys. You know what I'm saying? So LeBron James, he played with everybody. He played with great point guards. Kyrie Irving was a great point guard. He played with great shooting guards. D-Wade was a great shooting guard. Played with great power forwards, Chris Bosh and Kevin Love. So I mean, for him to, and listen, not that only 4 rings is a minor accomplishment, because it's not, it's huge. But when you look at the grand scheme of things, right, with the level of talent that he played with, he should have accomplished more as far as from a championship perspective than what he did. Now, his overall numbers is, you know, through the roof, but then again, you got to kind of look at some of those numbers sideways, you know, because a lot of that was just the fact that he played longer. Now, don't get me wrong, he's still playing at a high level, but he played longer than Michael Jordan, right? It took him, I want y'all to think about this, right? It took him 7 seasons to pass Michael Jordan on the all-time scoring list. You got to factor in, Michael Jordan played college basketball for 2 seasons, right? Michael Jordan, that's 2 seasons. Michael Jordan was injured almost 1 full season. I believe it was the 2nd season. So that's 3 years right there. Last but not least, Michael Jordan retired for 2 seasons. So that's 5 years. So had Michael Jordan never got injured, Michael Jordan didn't play those 2, you know, well, if he never played for North Carolina, right? He never got injured and he never retired. You got to make a case that LeBron James would have never been able to catch Michael Jordan, right? Even if you want to say, well, maybe Michael Jordan wouldn't have been what he been had he not played at North Carolina. Fine. Won a college championship at North Carolina. Let's just say he never got injured that 2nd season and he never retired. You know, the 2 seasons he retired, you can make a case that Michael Jordan would be an 8-time NBA champion, and he would have been the #1 scorer over Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. And you can make a case that LeBron James most certainly would have never caught Michael Jordan, right? But listen, and excuse me, I'm wrong. Michael Jordan retired twice, because the first time he retired from the Bulls for 2 years, then the next time he retired from the Bulls, I think he was out for 1 or 2 seasons, and then he came back and played for the Washington Wizards. So, hey, listen, LeBron James is not the GOAT, but he is one of the GOATs when it comes to being one of the best GMs the NBA has ever seen. But let me know what you think in the comment section. Like, share, and subscribe.